I was doing research for this Generative Power series, I kept coming across themes that were similar to this. And at some point, I was listening or reading, and it referenced Dr. Harriet Braker. And I had never heard of her before. Have you? Braker is Braiker. She passed away in 2004. She had complications from pneumonia. She was only 55 years old. But her body of work is so impressive. I started researching it. I now have two of her books downloaded on Audible. When you are driven by someone else's agenda, you end up feeling stressed out, burnt out, angry. It can cause you to lose sleep. A lot of people do stress eating, drinking, or whatever behaviors they go to. It leads to a cycle where you are less and less healthy and you have less energy. Maybe you don't have time to work out or prepare nutritious meals or regenerate yourself by spending time with people who lift you up versus people who are sucking your energy from you. So it's really important for us to protect our time and to think about what we're doing each day and what we're saying yes to, as opposed to what we're saying no to. I want to share with you what her husband said about her in her obituary in 2004. He said that his wife became intrigued in the early 1980s with emerging research on the type A personality, hard driving men who make themselves vulnerable to cardiovascular disease by their nonstop workaholic behavior. Okay, first of all, I never thought about type A personality as being just men. So this is the first time I've actually read this or understood it, that it originally applied to men. And I don't know if that's true or not, or if that was just her husband saying that. But like, how far have we come that it's just universal? Type A personalities are like this really, like, we would say workaholic type personalities. And I never thought about that applying to men versus women. Then he went on to say that she believed that women suffer much more stress than men, a different stress. Men can be successful on the job, but women need to be successful in a career, as a mother, cook, chauffeur, wife, volunteer in charities, a hostess, and so much more. This is still true in so many circumstances. But I also know this applies to many men in our society as well. And even when it does, in circumstances, apply to women, it affects the men in their lives. It affects all of our society. Because if women are feeling this, then the ripple effect is felt by men, is felt by their partners, is felt by their children and their families and their friends. It's felt by everybody. Her theory was in a cover article for Working Woman magazine in 1984 called Why the Stress Experts Are Wrong About Women. He said the article generated such interest among women that Breaker turned it into a book called The Type E Woman. Now, I'm 60 years old, so I remember this magazine called Working Woman, and I looked it up, and they stopped publishing it in, I want to say 2001, but it was published for 25 years. So why was it important to have a magazine specifically directed at women who work? It's just interesting to think about that. Every woman was expected to work. So there was this magazine called Working Woman. How interesting how things have evolved, right? Sometimes I feel like we haven't made any progress as women. And then I look at things like this and I go, oh, okay, actually, I guess we have, because we no longer have a magazine around called Working Woman. Very interesting. Okay, so her book titles, let me read these to you. Her book titles first, Who's Pulling Your Strings? How to Break the Cycle of Manipulation and Regain Control of Your Life. So who's pulling your strings as it relates to people pleasing? Sometimes people will manipulate us, right? They'll say certain things. They'll try to guilt us into doing something. They'll find our weak spot. They know how to talk to us so that we give in to what they're asking us to do when we normally wouldn't. And maybe after the fact, we're like, damn it, we did it again. He did it to me again, or she did it to me again. Why did I fall for that, right? Okay, second, the disease to please, curing the people-pleasing syndrome. I just love this phrase, the disease to please, curing the people-pleasing syndrome. It reminds me of imposter syndrome, which if you've seen my webinar on imposter syndrome, I point out that it was originally called imposter phenomenon. So the two women who identified imposter phenomenon said, this is something that happens in our society And we're seeing it amongst highly educated women who feel like they're going to be found out and kicked out of their programs, even though they are highly qualified, highly intelligent people doing the work that they need to do, fully qualified to be in these programs, right? But we've changed that from imposter phenomenon to imposter syndrome as if it's an illness. So our society is referring to these behaviors as illnesses. But I'm here to tell you it's not an illness. I mean, it's sort of catchy, right? The disease to please, that's catchy, but I don't think it's a disease. I think it's something that we need to wake up to, wake up and regain our power. So, this is part of creating generative power for yourself. Because as I read these phrases, as I talk to you, I want you to think about where you're giving your power away. Where's your power leaking? It's like a colander, right? Like you have your power in this bowl, but now there's holes in it. It's just like leaking through. So this is it. When people try to manipulate you, when you become a people pleaser, when you allow people to manipulate you, when you succumb to something that is imposter phenomenon, so you're playing smaller, those are all ways that we leak our own power. Another book she wrote is called Lethal Lovers and Poisonous People. Damn. Think about the lethal lovers and poisonous people in your life, or people who have passed through your life. And are they still in your life? And how can you control the impact they have on you, the negative impact they have on you? Negative impact, because we're talking about negative people here. Here's another one, getting up when you're feeling down. Okay, that's cool. I like that one. And then there's the September 11 syndrome, 7 steps to gain a grip in uncertain times. And I wonder if that's applicable today with the uncertain times we're feeling, with our political environment and what's going on all around the world. It seems like very uncertain times to me. Then the last one was the type E woman, how to overcome the stress of being everything to everybody. It creates stress for you when you're trying to be everything to everybody. If you appreciated the insights in this video, subscribe to the channel and you'll be among the first to see new videos when they drop. And if you could take a second to like this video, that small action will be more powerful than you could ever know.